Siren Song by Richard L. Elsliger. It was a Friday, I believe. Yes, definitely a Friday when I got broadsided at the intersection. I had the green. I know I had the green. I suspect, in the final analysis, given the present state of my injuries, it didn't really matter who had the right-of-way. I was suffering. I sustained serious injuries, as dictated by the high levels of pain radiating throughout my body. I was hurt badly, and I knew it. The ambulance arrived to the scene with haste, the paramedics demonstrating their firm intent to whisk me away into the night. The attendants unceremoniously removed me from the situs of my calamity, depriving me of the true knowledge that might detail the full nature and extent of the injuries acquired by my nemesis, the one who hit me. He put me in this situation, and the very least the attendants could do was impart to me the knowledge of the other driver's fate, but that was not to be. The attendants who lifted me into the ambulance were most strange, behaving like robotic oddities, devoid of any facial expressions that might remotely suggest they were human. They did not speak to any of my inquiries, nor did they communicate with each other, which I considered to be uniquely unorthodox for anyone engaged in the business of providing medical services. The ambulance itself presented characteristics of an antiquated jalopy, an old, ornate vehicle from an era long since past, yet it functioned and seemed accommodating enough. I seemed to have lost track of time since the paramedics sequestered me in this place. I'd been a stubborn man for most of my life and refused medical care and treatment for my various ailments and occasional non-life-threatening injury. In reality, I was rarely sick, but this time my luck had run out. The crash obliterated me in both body and spirit. I needed to be here, wherever here might be, for I am at a distinct disadvantage as to state my locale with any level of confidence or even recite the name of this medical facility. I remember coughing blood, spurting iridescent streams of red from my mouth at the scene. It felt as if every rib in my body had been broken. I recall the incredible pain elicited upon my removal from the driver's seat. They laid me out on the ground, then lifted me up to the gurney, strapping me in, wheeling me to the back of the ambulance. My sides seemed to split apart in pain, my very entrails wanting to burst out of my skin and ooze all over the cold pavement. The night sky was dark, and I saw flickering lights emanating from nearby apartments, suggestive of people going about their lives, unaware of my acute suffering down below, so close to their proximity. I felt cold inside, not an emotional cold, but rather a genuine feeling of my blood turning to ice. Oh, how I pined to be one of those apartment dwellers, and not the helpless victim at a crash. It all seemed so unjust. The paramedic who removed me wasted not a moment of time getting me packaged up and on board the antiquated ambulance, Siren Song screaming into my ears, sailing away into the night. Now, as I lie in my hospital bed and give a concerted effort to remember, I can better recall more detail of my ordeal. I remember the paramedics sliding me to the back of the ambulance and shutting the door. The flashing overhead lights came on, and I could see their strobe effects upon the landscape, creating unusual and bloody red shadows on the way to the hospital. I kept my eyes trained on the windshield that allowed me to view our intended course from the back of the ambulance. It wasn't long before we were out of range of the accident scene and entering areas unknown to me. From the side windows, I witnessed strange landscapes, terrains that looked otherworldly, sordid and scorched lands in the twilight. The sedatives were kicking in, and I laid my head back and closed my eyes. When I awoke, I found myself here in this hospital. That is the sum total of my knowledge about the accident. I know it isn't much comfort for me, these scant details floating in the recesses of my mind. What I find less comforting and positively distressing is the total lack of communication by the medical staff and me, their patient. They are scarcely available and seldom seen in this place. All I see are moving shadows, nothing more. There is no bedside manner, as no one has come to me to speak of my condition and future prognosis. I am the only one assigned to this room, a rather dilapidated accommodation, unkempt in its accoutrements for a faltering patient. My eyes begin to track the perimeter of my room, and I see flaking paint chips peeling away from the walls in vast quantities, the molting skin of an old reptile. My bed smells of urine and mildew. The curtains that separate other beds are tattered like witches' shawls. Such a dilapidated chamber for such a serious injury. I am appalled at the condition of my surroundings. But then we don't get to choose where we alight when it's a matter of life or death. One goes where they take you, or you die at the scene. I see things moving in the shadows, slithery things, conjuring in my mind the prospect that I'd been placed in a zoo of venomous reptiles who served as my medical providers. So vivid was this image that I half expected the shadowy vipers to come off the walls and greet me at my bedside with venomous bites for their treatments. This was sheer folly. I had to be hallucinating. The drugs were affecting my perception. How could it be any other reason? I closed my eyes again and slept. Painful breathing made it hard for me to let go, and I slept in a fitful, disquieting state of semi-consciousness. In the course of a few paltry minutes, or was it many hours, I was startled by a series of shrill screams down the hallway, terrible screams of agony. My eyes shifted toward the direction of the door to my room, and a streak of fear ran right through me. As fast as the crescendo of shrieks began, they tapered off toward silence, and I heard them no more. I turned in bed and got a stabbing sensation in my side for my reward. I searched to find a comfortable position, but could find no relief. I looked at the sheet that covered my body, and it was stained in green mildew. It smelled horrible and turned my insides just to look at it. I studied my room more intently now, and saw that the floors were covered in a thick layer of dust. The air smelled stale. How the hell did I end up here? I took an excursion deep into my mind, and attempted again to retrace my steps back to the accident, from the moment of impact, to the arrival of the paramedics, to the hazy, delirious trip to the hospital. My memory falters and the details wither away, falling to an ever-encroaching and uncertain fogginess. Just minutes earlier, I recalled the details without any difficulty. Never before in my life had I any memory problems. Now I struggle to remember how I got here. Now I struggle to remember how I injured myself. I think it was a car accident, wasn't it? This wasn't right. None of this seemed right. I needed to get out of here. I turned to check the headboard of my bed, and I fumbled along the bed rails at my sides, hunting for the call button, unable to locate it. I suspected it might not function anyway, given the dank and repulsive condition of my room. "Hey!" I yelled. "Hey! I need help!" I listened intently for a reaction, for any acknowledgement or movement my way. I heard nothing but an echoing solitary voice, my voice, and it reverberated and faded throughout the endless corridors. No one answered, and no one came to my bed. I turned on my side and attempted to sit up, but the pain intensified and kept me in a helpless, guarded position. Again I struggled to sit up, and again a rippling pain shot through me, and I collapsed to the festering mattress. I heard something. It sounded like an animal in the distance, a howl like a wolf, but it also had distinct human elements to the wail. A pang of fear shot through me. The noise drew closer, and the moving shadows on the ceiling intensified, swirling in counterclockwise streams, agitated by the approach of something, a thing I could not know. I tried to decipher the peculiar shapes of these shadows, snake-like by my best estimate. Their movements reminded me of slithering underworld creatures, things that this world should never bear witness. I closed my eyes and reopened them, thinking these images would disappear from my sight, that they would somehow be banished from my brain. As remarkable as it may seem, it worked, and they were gone. The howling sound in the distance faded away. A cold breeze ushered forth into my room and touched my cheeks. The source of this chill unknown, for my hospital room was windowless. The icy air came from everywhere and nowhere. I tasted a hideous thing in the ether, the flavor of stagnation, of stifling mortality and eerie permanency. I smelled the stench of rotten flesh. I had to get out of here. I took hold of one of my legs and attempted to move it over the edge of the bed. When I moved my leg with my hand, I could not feel any sensation in my thigh. I strained to sit up once more with great effort and pain, adjusting my body to set myself toward the edge of the bed. I heard a cracking sound in my pelvis, and I collapsed backward to the bed, my head hitting the rancid pillow, a reeking, decaying support for my aching neck. Mildew spores from my pillow filled the air in a puff of smoke, departing from their entrenchment, the bitter, choking dust enveloping my face in a stifling, deathly cloud. I hacked on the vile smell. I turned my head away, seeking fresher air, and in the entranceway to my room, I saw a graceful figure of a woman in a flowing black dress, her face shrouded in black. Could this be the doctor? Or perhaps my nurse? "Hello," I said. She made no answer to my inquiry, choosing to take deliberate, measured steps in my direction. "Hello," I insisted. She drew ever closer with intentions that baffled me. Her footfalls were silent, as was the dark pall that fell upon my room. Closer still, I could see the distinct outline of her frail and gaunt stature. She lifted the black veil from her face, and I screamed in abject horror. "You stay away from me," I bellowed. "You stay away! No! No! No!"